Hey guys, how's it going? Today I am going to walk you through the Chaski Way, which is our methodology here at Chaski for getting athletes to PR in the next 6 to 12 months by training smart and avoiding injury. Okay, so now, before we get started, this video is for you. If you're a distance runner of any level, and I mean it, like you could be, I just am getting started, I've never run before, you could be training for the Olympics. We've got people on both ends of that spectrum, okay? And same with distance, we've got people running 5Ks, even 1 mile races, all the way up to 100+ mile ultra marathons. So seriously, this is for you if you are a runner and you care about running PRs, staying injury free, and trying to make sure you balance your training with a super busy lifestyle. You got a family, you got work, whatever it is, we are here to support your running journey in that. Okay. Now, I know that in order to watch this video, you probably either clicked through an ad, you gave me some of your contact information. First of all, thank you for that. Second, I don't take that lightly. So what I want to do here is I don't want this to just be a sales pitch. I've seen too many videos where they just are selling you stuff the whole time. I want you to walk through this with me and understand our exact process. And like you are going to be able to take actionable steps with this information today if you want to improve your own running. You do not have to work with me or Chaski in order to get a ton out of this video. I'm going to walk you through exactly the same training that I use for my coaches, for myself, and help people achieve their goals. Okay, so you're going to be able to walk away from this being like, oh my gosh, there's so much value. If you do end up being like, hey, there's so much here, I want to learn more, I want to talk to Ty, you can schedule a call with me. You can learn more about Chaski and what we do, and I'm going to walk you through that at the end of the video. But before that, I want to just share all this with you guys for free for your time. Okay, so I want you guys to imagine a future where you are fit, you are injury free, and you're 100% confident going into your next big race. And in order to get there, you have been enjoying training. You are loving the process, okay? And you're balancing that with a super busy life, okay? Because we all have busy lives. And finally, I want you to imagine that sensation of crossing the finish line, leaving it all out there, and you've got this awesome new PR, and you're super stoked about the next big challenge, okay? And in order to exactly or to walk you through that, I am going to walk you through our exact 3-step program that we use, which we have dubbed the Chaski Way, and that has helped literally thousands of runners at this point. Okay. And for example, we got Allie here. Allie was an interior designer from Boston. She worked with us and she finished her first 100K at age 42. She'd never run an ultra marathon. She went from marathon all the way up to 100K. It's kind of wild, right? This is Melanie, a lawyer from Miami. We took her, she'd really struggled in the marathon. She was a 4+ hour marathoner and she ran her first BQ. I think she ran like 3:10 or something. So it took almost an hour off of her marathon time. And then finally, Connor, this is Connor and me actually running together in Quito, Ecuador. He came to one of our in-person retreats, trips. He lost 40 pounds. Obviously, he's super fit now. He's been working with me for 4 years, and he eventually improved his marathon time from 350 all the way down to 235. Okay, incredible. But first, I want to talk a little bit about the context of how I developed this system, how I grew from this tiny little high schooler on the left to a pro runner using the system and developing it and coaching all these other runners along the way. Okay, so again, here's me. I think I'm like 17 years old in this picture in high school. And for me, the big thing about high school was I found a love for training and for progress. That was the thing that really, really stuck with me about running was it was this numerical sense of every single week I could look at, hey, I can run a little bit more and I can get faster. And then I run a little more and then I get faster. And it was this unbelievably satisfying feedback loop for me. And I totally fell in love with it. And I kept running through college. I ran at Tufts. Here's me in my Tufts singlet running a road race in Boston. It was amazing there. Learned so much more. And I even started to really develop my personality of a student of the sport, learning about the sport, and even helped coach some club runners while I was in college and some high schoolers while I was in college. So after that, like I said, I was able to get signed. I signed a professional contract with Hoka. I've been with them for my entire pro career, and I trained all over the world. This is Miguel Angel Almachi, who's a Ecuadorian Olympian and I trained together down at their Olympic Stadium. But I also began coaching a lot more myself. So I coached myself. I coached high schoolers, like I mentioned before. I started coaching recreational adult runners of all levels. And I did a lot of experimenting, both on myself and on some of the athletes that I was training to kind of really put a system together. But it didn't go perfectly. Okay. I got stuck. I reached this point where up until then, I had just kind of kept increasing my training load bit by bit by bit. And I kept getting faster. Like, like I was saying when I was in high school, it was the same thing. I just kind of year over year instead of week over week at that point. But there was one particular season where I kept doing that. I kept increasing my training load and I didn't get faster. And then it happened again. And I was like, man, have I just reached my limit here? I wonder, like, is this the plateau that people talk about? You get closer and closer to your ceiling and eventually you hit it. And I was like, maybe I'm just there. Like, all I wanted to do was what I'd always done, which is I just want to work harder because I had the motivation. I want to work harder and I want to keep improving because up to that point, that had been enough. Like, working hard had been enough to continue to get me results. Um, and internally, like it was the same thing. Like I wanted the results, but I also just loved the idea of working hard and pushing. And the fact that that wasn't working was super frustrating. Like I had always just tried to put in more stuff, and I find myself, month after month, just in this rut. I got little injuries. Like you guys have probably all experienced this. My life got busier, so I had less time to recover and to train. And I just couldn't find consistency anymore. And yeah, like I think this picture pretty much encapsulates. I was just like, that's how I felt like every time I got out to race was like, oh man, like what is going on here? And like I'm gonna be totally honest here. Like I even had the thought of like, maybe this is it. Like maybe I have reached my max in running and it's not cool, it's not fun to me anymore, and I'm not gonna get any better, and I should just, hang up the old spikes and let it go. Um, but luckily I didn't. I had this aha moment. I was in Bukoji, Ethiopia, which is one of the hot spots of distance running in the whole world. We've got like this tiny village, and there are literally like a dozen Olympic medalists that have come here. And I thought, oh man, I'm gonna go down there and check it out, see what it's all about. And I remember a mentor of mine, who I met on that trip, and we ended up spending a ton of time together. He taught me this one thing, and it completely changed my attitude about how I was training and how I would go on to train other people. I had up to that point just been focused on training harder, like I'd said before. But what I needed to do was change that methodology that only works up to a certain point. I needed to focus on training smarter. Okay. So I did something a little bit extreme. And like again, for me, like extreme is how I do everything. So like maybe that's not super surprising if you know me personally, or you've watched me on social media or anything. But I did something extreme. I cut all my mileage back. For the first time in 10 years. I probably cut it by 30%. And like again, if you know me personally, you know that I'm a mileage hog, and that's crazy for me. But I cut my mileage way back, and I replaced that time that I'd spent running with different kinds of training, stuff that I felt was super high return, which we're going to talk about later, but stuff that's not running, that was going to help me stay injury free and get better. So these honestly did work better. Like I improved suddenly, like for the first time in a while. I had a season where I got better. But I actually found myself still with another injury after a few months. Super, super frustrated. So again, I found myself in that point of like, dude, like I have tried this. I'm getting really tired. I'm getting really fed up with this like long term, month after month. Like maybe my body has just had enough. And then came the true aha moment. Okay. I had to figure out why I kept getting injured. That was really the thing that was holding me back. And so I put together an entire plan to focus just on injury prevention. I was like, look, my fitness does not matter. I could be the fittest person in the world, but if I'm hurt, I can't compete, and it's useless, right? So I took that step and realized, okay, the injury prevention has to actually come before the training. So I talked to a whole bunch of people that have a lot of letters at the end of their name. I found some biomechanical issues. Like we did like a full biomechanical analysis. And honestly, I probably talked to 20 different people. But from that, I was able to develop a super simple targeted strength program to fix those imbalances that I was dealing with and really keep myself from getting injured. So at this point, I was able to zoom out and see everything I'd done over, at this point, like 15 years of training, training myself, and boil it down to our three pillars. The first was motivation. For me, that was like, I figured that out when I was 16. That was great. Okay, no problem. The second was that injury prevention. I had to have that in before the training. And then we finally got to the training. So I thought, okay, I've got all these three things. Now I've got my three pillars. And the result for the first time in years, I was 100% healthy. I had that confidence and motivation that I'd still had since I was a little kid. And I was fit. And that was the result. Like, I finally, like, everything just started to click. I set a world record at 50K, set world records in the mountains. I made 4 world championship teams. I competed at 2 Olympic trials, and I had ran PRs at every distance I'd attempted. Everything from 5K, I beat my college 5K PR, and all the way to 100 miles, all in about 2 years. Okay, and now we're going to talk about this system, the Chaski Way, and it's not just about me. Like, we are using this exact same three-pillar methodology to coach other runners to be injury-free, to achieve their goals, whether that's setting PRs, finish ultras, qualify for Boston Olympic trials, everything. We are doing that, and it's awesome. And again, like, I still use this today. Like, whenever I map out my own season, I do exactly the same stuff that I prescribe to my other coaches and athletes. Okay. So before we dive into this, like, why should we share all this? To me, running is about more than just burning calories. It's about more than exercise. It's about more than staying in shape. It's about more than health benefits. To me, running has completely changed my life. It has literally taken me around the world. I think I've raced on every continent except Antarctica. I've represented my country. I've made lifelong friendships. I've met people I never would have met. I've been to places I never would have been, all because of running. And whether you're a pro runner or you're a recreational runner, I hear this from people all the time. It's about the connections we make, what running exposes us to, and how it makes us feel about ourselves. And I want to help other people be able to do that and not have to deal with that same rocky journey that I had. Okay. And these are just a couple quick quotes from people that we've helped. We, again, like, it's Chaski, we try to be about more than just helping people be stronger runners, but we want them to find the sense of community. I love this picture. This is from one of our Flagstaff in-person retreats that we had last year. It's an amazing group of people. And yeah, that's what it's all about. It's about meeting amazing people, right? This is Nicole. She ran her first 100 at the age of 35. She's like the only person I've ever met who, I remember this call after this race. And she was like, yeah, I actually felt like really good all the way basically up until, I don't know, 75, 80 miles, which, like, no one ever says that. It was incredible. So, props to her. And then this is Douglas, another guy that I work with. He ran a half marathon PR at the age of 51. He beat his time from like 20 years earlier, after we've been working together only about 5 months. So just incredible. So stoked for him. But okay, let's dive into it. Again, I want you to learn so much in this video and take stuff out of here that you could apply to yourself literally today and start putting a plan together that's going to keep you healthy and stoked. Okay. So I'm an engineer, so, like, I always like to start with kind of the black box model. So on our left side, we have our input, which is you. That's the athlete. We have our three-pillar system. That's the system. And that's the output that we want to achieve. We want someone who is fit, who is healthy, and who is confident. Those are the big three things. So the important thing is, okay, what's in the middle? What is that system? Okay. But before we get into that, we have to remember, like, the running program itself is just one pillar. Okay. So here's our flow chart. You can see we've got our running program is down here at the bottom, or excuse me, is on our right side. Most people, if you're looking at a running training plan or a running coach, most people just do that one piece. They just do the running program that's over here on the right side. We have to do all of this. And don't worry, we're going to walk through this step by step so you guys understand exactly how this works. And again, if you want to set it up for yourself, you can. I can't believe I'm just, like, explaining all this, because, like, this is really what we train our coaches to do. But I am going to do this and show this because I believe in this so much. Okay. So the first step, we're going to walk from left to right, is goal setting. This is basically chronological order. You have to do these things in this order for this to work. Okay. So we have one deep goal, which is our why. We have one short-term goal, which is something that can be achieved in the next 30 to 60 days. And then we have a long-term goal, which is, let's say, from 3 to 12 months. Okay. Those are our goals. So I'm going to walk you through some examples for each of these so you guys understand them. Okay. So we're going to talk about Ellie. Ellie was someone who had she basically didn't have any of these. She didn't have like super long-term goals. She liked running, but she just kind of like ran every day, and she'd kind of gotten into this rut where she basically just did the same 3 mile loop like every day. And she was like, it's kind of boring. Like, and which like it is. Like, I get it, Ellie. Like, it sounds really boring. Um, so what we did with her was we walked through these. So her why, like, she didn't really have one. She didn't have a short-term goal. Her long-term goal was really vague. She was like, I just want to get better at running. I want to be able to do longer stuff. It's like, okay, cool, but we have to be a little bit more specific. Okay. So for her, we worked backwards. So the first thing we said is like, okay, let's put a concrete thing on paper. What's that first goal? Okay, finish 100K. Cool. That's my long-term goal. It's impossible today, but it's possible in the next 3 to 12 months. That's kind of how I think about the long-term goal. Okay. So then we work backwards and we think, okay, what are some short-term goals that we can set right now that we can achieve in the next 30 to 60 days that we are in control of, that we can accomplish? And for her, that was she wanted to run a half marathon in training. So she'd never done that. She was, again, running 3 miles a day at this point. So running 13.1 miles in the training run for her was like a very daunting proposition. And then is the most important is the why. The why is when we get into a hard moment in training or in a race, or even just with motivation of, oh, man, I don't want to go run today. The why is what's there behind all of that. And so for her, she figured this out. There were two really important things. One was she loved spending time outside. She had an office job, so she spent most of her day inside. So her run was an opportunity for her to get to be outside in nature. And the other was feeling really good about her body. So that was part of why she ran. She felt good when she was running constantly and she was in better shape. Okay. So these were some great goals. We love these. Okay. And the result was she finished her 100K. She loved it. She was enjoying her training more because she was getting out of it because she had these little milestone goals that she was working towards. And now she is actually training for 100 miles. She's running her first 100 miler next year. So she came back to the system. It worked so well for her that we are getting her ready for a 100-mile race down the road, which is pretty wild. Okay, so now we've got our goals. That's on the left. We're going to talk injury prevention. That is in the middle. Again, this is one of the most important pieces that people skip. Okay, so we've got the first step, which is analyzing what's going on. So we do a full biomechanical analysis for all of our athletes to make sure that they are sound and that if they have any issues that we address those. And then we write a custom injury prevention program. And then there's continuous feedback there that we update and monitor and make sure that we're keeping track of during the running program. Okay. So let's talk about Maggie. Maggie is a runner who had constantly been injured. She'd been running since high school. She's in her mid 30s at this point. Tons of injuries. She was in what we call the injury cycle, which is basically she would take a bunch of time off. Then she would start training. It would go okay for a few weeks. And then as soon as she hit a certain threshold of mileage or time running, she'd get injured again and then repeat. She'd have to take a bunch of time off and basically start from square zero. Super, super frustrating. And we did not want that to keep going. So we tried to break that cycle. And so what we did for Maggie was we started with a full biomechanical analysis with one of our doctors of physical therapy on staff. And this can be done. There are places that will do it in person for you if you want to go into like Spalding Sports Medicine in Boston is one that I know is kind of world renowned that does this like literally on a treadmill where they have pressure plates and stuff. But we can do this all over telehealth. So we can do it by looking at videos of you running and using software to analyze that, as well as doing some strength tests where we have you basically perform strength tests over Zoom or something like that. And we look at your ability to do things on both sides. Okay. So that's the first step. For her, we found some slight imbalances. I think it was in her calves. Basically one of her calves was way overworking and it had to do with just like length of her feet. Like things that happen that are basically part of all of us. I have slightly different sized feet. A lot of people do. You might have a slight leg length discrepancy. You might just have always done something like if you run on a track every day and you're always turning left, like that's a really good way to develop an asymmetry. These are not like season career ending things. They're just issues that we have to address. Okay. And so for Maggie, one of our doctors again prescribed a completely custom program for her and then got feedback from her and continued to adjust that as it went on. The result was for Maggie, she had the best training block of her life. This was last year. She set a 45-minute PR, huge PR in the marathon, to run her first ever BQ. And now we're getting her ready for Boston, which is amazing. And honestly, like she's just less stressed out about training. Like she's someone who was constantly like, okay, when am I going to get injured this season? What's going to happen now? So she was having more fun. She was less stressed out. And that's going to make her training better too, because she's just going to be more stoked about it. Okay. So Here's a sample program. I'm not going to walk through all of this if you guys want to pause it and look at this stuff, but this is kind of like what you're looking at. This was actually from a different athlete, but just a good example of what you're looking at in terms of the injury prevention program. Some of this stuff you're going to do like every single day or 5 days a week. Some of it might be more heavy strength training where you're doing it once or twice a week. Okay. Awesome. Okay, so now it's actually time to get to the training plan. Again, when you look at most people, most run coaches, they're only doing that far side. They're skipping everything else that we just talked about. And that's part of why their plans often fail. It's part of why doing a plan out of a book will often fail, unless you do all this stuff along with it. It's a lot of work, okay? So far we've got our goals and our injury prevention. So our goals are keeping us motivated. They're keeping us stoked about our training. They're keeping us, eyes on the prize long term. And then our injury prevention system is what keeps us healthy. Okay. So that's how we actually get through the run training. If we don't do that, then we're going to get injured like a lot of the time. That's what happens. I'm sure a lot of you guys have experienced that. Okay. So now let's do it. So the important thing is we have a long-term plan. So just like with goals, we want to have short-term plan, which is done through our weekly actual day-to-day plan, as well as a long-term plan, which is what we use. So if we have a race that we're building up to, that's how we kind of mark that out with like a scaffolding, basically. And the most important part of the training plan is continuous feedback. So again, let me repeat that. This is the most important part. You can have the fanciest training plan in the world, but if you do not have continuous feedback, you will fail. I guarantee that. Okay. The problem is when we have a training plan that's 4 months long, where every single day is written out, what do you do when you miss a week of training because you get sick or because you have to travel for the holidays? Like something is going to happen where you're going to have to make adjustments. And if you are comfortable doing that, awesome, cool, more power to you. But a lot of people get stuck. They freeze. They say, okay, what do I do? Do I redo last week? Do I go back 2 weeks because I kind of lost some fitness? Do I skip the week that I missed and go ahead? That's the problem. And that's why we need continuous check-in and adjustment as part of any training program. Okay. Okay, I think I basically just said all this. But basically, this is Steve. Steve was working with me before this. He was working with a cookie cutter plan out of a book. So I'm not going to cite which book it was. Perfectly fine plan. But again, he was following this plan. He did not know how to adjust it when I can't remember what exactly came up with him. Let's say he had a minor, injury that kept him out for a week or two. And then he was stuck. He didn't know what to do. He was injured. He was frustrated. Okay. Again, this is the most critical piece of all of this. A lot of people think a coach is just there to write your training plan. Okay. That is not true. Anyone can write a training plan. ChatGPT can write you a training plan. You can type into ChatGPT right now, hey, I want to run 2:45 in the marathon. Can you write me a 16-week program? It will do it for you. And it won't be terrible. Like anyone can write the training plan. The coach, a true coach's job is to get to know you as an athlete and then help you stay motivated and execute a training plan week by week. That is a true coach's job. Because if you don't have someone who's doing that level of customization and touch, then you might as well be working with ChatGPT, or you might as well just be working with a book. Okay. So step 3 here is our continuous feedback. So here we have a plan where it is built around real life. So again, this is the point of not just using that cookie cutter, but we're planning something that's built around someone's real life. So if someone works 60 hours a week, that plan is going to look really different than someone who is a pro runner and can basically train and rest and that's it. Like that's their whole life. We have to build it around what their real life is, what they have access to, things like that. Okay. So we adjust the plan weekly based on if things are going really well or if we have any issues. And what does this lead to? It leads to happy, confident, and consistent training. Okay. And so for Connor, that led to a 30-minute PR in the marathon. We're working together for 4 years, like I mentioned before, and he has become one of the best runners in his local area, which is super exciting to see. Okay. So I'm going to recap all of this now. So the number one thing is goal setting. If we don't have that, that's the very first step. We're going to struggle with that motivation and confidence. Okay. That's going to be a problem. Number 2, injury prevention. If we don't do this step, we're almost certainly going to have injury problems at some point during our buildup if we're trying to train at a high level. Okay. And then the number 3 is that training program with continuous feedback. That is our third step. Again, that's where most people start. They skip the first 2 steps, and maybe they even skip the continuous feedback. So this encompasses all of those things. Okay. What's the result of this? We've had over 1,000 happy, healthy, confident runners, countless PRs, countless qualifiers, all that stuff. Okay. This is Chris. He came on a trip to Peru with me. He's the man. He's had an incredible season. He's gone from a college runner to now one of the top ultra trail runners in the country. And I've helped him be a part of that. I've been a tiny part of his journey. I don't want to boast too much. He's done all the work. And then this is Allie. Allie was someone who really struggled with the injury side and the motivation side, and we've been able to keep her healthy and training, achieving her goals. And she, like she said here, she's like just kind of re-fallen in love with running, which has been really awesome to see. So like this is someone who did not love running for a long time, and she was able to finally develop a good relationship with the sport. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. I know we've been talking for a long time. I know I talk fast and I say a lot of words. So here's the deal. I am not going to promise you a PR. Okay. I'm not going to do that because you can't guarantee that. Anyone who guarantees you a PR or promises that you're going to PR in this time frame is lying to you, because we can't do that. A, because we as the coach don't have control. You as the athlete are the one who has to do the work and go out and run the race. And also because there are always going to be things outside of your control. Okay. So I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to promise you PR. Here's my guarantee. Okay. You will be more confident and you will be more fit. And maybe most importantly, you're going to be more stoked. You're going to be happier as a runner. Okay. So look, here's the point that I talked about at the beginning of the video, where you have a choice now. You can take everything I just gave you and do it by yourself. Like you can do that. I like if that's what you want to do, if you're an independent person, you can go do that. Like implement all this stuff by yourself. You can put that together. It's going to be hard. Like it took me a long time to figure this out, to the point that I could condense it down into here and do this for myself and all of our athletes. But if you don't want to do that, if you want to achieve your goals faster, if you want to use a system that's already worked on at least 1,000 people who've worked with us, who've worked with me, who've worked with Chaski and achieved their dreams, you can do that now. Okay. So here's my promise to you. This is what we're going to do together. We are going to connect you with a certified world-class coach, whether that's me or whether that's someone else on our team. We are going to set goals that are based around where you are now and where you want to get to. We're going to make sure we keep you injury-free with that step 2 injury prevention plan. Then we are finally going to customize your training program, and then we're going to check in and update it. That's again the most important part of both the injury and the training program, is to make sure that there's continuous feedback there and that we're changing those. Okay, that is how we're going to get you to your PRs. Okay, and it's not just this. Here's the other thing: we give you a whole bunch of other stuff at Chaski. So beyond that, we didn't even talk about this, but we also have a full analysis and consult from a certified nutritionist. We also, huge part, have a community of Chaski athletes. So you get access not just to me, your coach, but to hundreds of other athletes and coaches through the Chaski community. So you have access to our entire knowledge base. You also get 10 to 30% off your running shoes, nutrition products, clothes, all this other stuff. We have awesome deals with partner brands that you guys get to take advantage of. It's like basically pays for itself, honestly, if you buy no shoes. And finally, like I mentioned a couple times, we also do some awesome in-person stuff. It is so fun. I'm leading a trail running trip down to the Atacama Desert in Chile in just a couple months. It's going to be amazing. So you guys get first access to those and discounts on all of our trips and programs. Okay. So here's the deal. I'm going to wrap this up. I really schedule to go ahead and book that call. You can see the button or link right below wherever you're watching this video, because look, this is a worst case. Worst case is we spend half an hour talking on the phone, okay? And we help you out. Like we give you some answers to your questions. We help you put a plan together on the phone to whatever issues you're having with your program. And you know, if we don't feel like it's a good fit, like we're not going to work with every single person. We are a little bit picky about who we work with. So like, you know, if it's not a good fit, we're going to point you in the right direction and say, hey, like I really think that this program over here is going to be better for you, or you know, X, Y, and Z. Okay, so this worst case is you spend 30 minutes on the phone, you get a bunch of information from us for free, and you go and take it and do whatever you want with it. Okay. Best case scenario is that we do decide to work together. Okay, we work together and we guarantee to improve your running happiness and health in the next 6 to 12 months. That's our guarantee. Again, we can't guarantee you a PR, but we do guarantee these things. Okay, so that is it Next steps would be click that button. It's going to be right below you. It's either going to be a button or a link, depending on where you're watching this video. You're going to see a screen that looks kind of like this. You're going to see a bunch of times that you can schedule to talk with me or someone else on our team, okay? And we're going to see if you're a good fit. And if so, we're going to help you, okay? That I promise. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for watching today. I know it's been a long video, but I really appreciate it. And if you have questions, if you want to talk, if you want to take your writing to the next level, go ahead, book that call, and I'll talk to you soon. Okay, thank you so much. Have a good one.